Probably not. What we do for photos, if you come through the line, you can get a photo with me. Someone will be there to take your camera. They will count to 3, and I will look up on 3, right? So we do the picture first. So basically, get into position where you want the photo. The person will count to 3, and I will look at them on 3, and then I'll turn back to signing. And I'll be signing your books during this. I'm like a trained Pavlovian dog. You can watch. It's really, really fun to watch Brandon look up on 3. If you do want to do that, have your phone out. Have it set to picture, not video camera. There are a lot of 3-second videos of me staring at a camera smiling. Your books should all already be signed and numbered. These signings go long. I generally move at about a rate of 100 people an hour. We can try to move that faster, but there are 1,500 of you here. If you run those numbers, it is probably going, who knows when Isaac and I'll get done. By the way, Isaac's also going to sign your books. He's my art director. He does a lot of the illustrations and stuff. That's who that is that's sitting next to me signing the books. You're welcome to take off and find me at another signing another time to get it personalized if you want it. Be warned if you go late. We have things for you to do, but I'm hoping that all 1,500 of you won't stay to get books signed because we will be here until like 10 in the morning tomorrow or something like that. So, but we'll play it by ear and see how it goes. I don't think there's anything else I need to announce, though I do, as always, want to kind of go down my team for you guys so you can applaud for them. We've already done Isaac, so Isaac. Isaac did the maps for Skyward, and what you did the what's that? Brian Taylor did the Starsight map, but you also did the with your daughter the little M-Bot stickers were given out and stuff like that. We have next to him is Peter Ahlstrom. You can always find Peter in green. It's his favorite color. And in fact, we do most of our shirts we sell in the store. We do in like specific colors, but he gets green versions of them. He is my editorial director. He's in charge of editing. He manages my beta reads, he edits all my blog posts, and he edits all the books and manages the copy edits. Very, very important person. He makes sure that I use the right words. So we also have Karen. Karen is our continuity editor. She maintains the wiki that's only inward-facing, not the ones you find on the internet, but is our wiki for keeping everything. She makes sure that everything's on time, like meaning the book's timeline is happening right. Skyward's dedicated for that reason. Let's see, where is Adam? Is Adam around anywhere? Adam, hey, Adam! Adam is my publicist and kind of personal assistant. He gets me where I'm supposed to be and things like that. And we have Kara. Kara puts together events like this. She's also kind of in charge of our store and all of our product line and anything like that. So if you have a cool thing you want us to make, talk to Kara. If you want to volunteer for things like this for some crazy reason, talk to Kara. So let's also applaud for the volunteers. There's a few other people that are here that you may want to know. My parents are both here. They're sitting right down here. My wife is around somewhere. Has anyone seen her? She's around here somewhere. She's around. She's off doing stuff. You can see her. She's our business manager. Did I forget anyone, Kara? No, Peter, did I forget anyone? Jane, oh, my sister's here. She's doing she runs our charitable foundation. She's got a little booth, doesn't she? Yeah, she's got a booth with foreign editions. Is that what she's doing, or what is she? Oh, she's doing a raffle. Okay, so she's doing a raffle for foreign editions. My lovely sister Jane. And we will also thank the bookstore, Barnes & Noble. Putting together one of these events and stocking it with books is a really, really big thing, and it's really complicated. And the bookstores are never quite sure what to do with us because, yeah, it's a little crazy. So I appreciate them very much putting up with all of us doing weird things. So about this chapter I'm going to read, it becomes really hard as the books progress to read chapters that are not spoilery. And I prefer to read chapters that are not spoilery. So if you want a chapter that's more spoilery, you can get the one from the newsletter where it's got a proper warning on it. Here, I'm going to read you a chapter that won't spoil very much for the books. What that means is that sometimes it's not the characters that you're hoping to hear from when I do the reading, because where they are in book 4 will give away things that happen in the early books. So I'm going to read to you from the flashback sequence from this book, and the flashbacks are being split between Eshonai and Venli. Now, there's some things to be aware of in this flashback. The first is that when I wrote this, I was specifically trying to get the tone and character right, because I wasn't sure if I was going to do Eshonai or if I was going to do Venli. Turned out that I decided to do a hybrid between them. But what that means is when I wrote this scene in particular, I wasn't really even planning for it to go in the book. It was what I was doing is searching for the tone, which means that it has some continuity problems that I knew about even when I started it. For instance, I think there might have been more people with Eshonai when this event happened, mentioned earlier. It may not happen at the time or place that it says in here. Basically, a version of this chapter will end up in the final book, but the actual exact details around it might change a lot. The flashbacks tend to go through some of those rigorous changes because of continuity, because, you know, we have a whole timeline that Karen is very good at keeping track of, and when I write a chapter like this, I'm just not paying attention to it at all. I'm just ignoring it because I want to see if the character works. But we're going to just see briefly from Eshonai here. Eshonai, if you don't know, is the Parshman, the Parshendi. She's on the cover of the first book. She's the person that Dalinar, who's in armor, is saluting. Eshonai had heard it said that mapping the world removed its mystery. Some of the other listeners in her camp insisted that the wilderness should be left wild, the place of spren and great shells, and that by trying to lock it down into paper, they risked stealing its secrets. She found this to be flat out ridiculous. She attuned awe as she entered the forest from the back way. Closer to the shattered plains, almost everything was flat, grown over only by the occasional rock bed. Yet here, not so far away, was a place where trees grew in abundance. She started her map by going around the perimeter of the forest until she found the river on the other side. Now, after a few days of walking, she intended to head back along the river until she came out on the other side, closer to her camp. Everyone had been so worried about the storms and her being trapped in them alone. But she had been out in storms a dozen times in her life, and she had survived just fine. That had been without the forest here. These trees made a wall before the storm, like the walls that had once encircled the 10 camps. Those camp walls had fallen long ago, like most of the ancient listener creations. That was proof. You couldn't steal the secrets from nature simply by exploring them. The mere thought was laughable. Yet listeners could create mighty walls. Yes, listeners could create mighty walls, but they were a poor imitation for what nature presented. This forest had likely stood when the ancient city at the center of the plains had been new, and it stood still now that the city was little more than a scattering of lumps in the creme. She settled down near a rock, unrolled her map, and made from precious paper. Her mother was one of the few among all the camps who knew the song that outlined the steps in creating it. With her help, Eshonai had perfected the process that made certain her cases were sealed against the rain. She used a pen and ink to sketch the path of the river as it entered the forest, then dabbed the ink until it was dry before re-rolling the map. Though she was confident, resolve attuned, she did admit that the complaints of the others had seemed particularly bothersome to her lately. "We know where the forest is. Why draw it out? The river flows this direction. Everyone knows where to find it. Why bother putting it to paper? You try to capture the songs, but the songs aren't meant to be tracked. Save writing for marking debts. Don't force something as alive as spren to become something as dead as a sheet of paper." Too many of her camp wanted to pretend the world was smaller than it was. She was convinced that was why they continued to squabble and fight with the other camps. If the world consisted only of the 10 camps and the ground around them, then fighting over that land made sense. But their ancestors hadn't fought one another. Their ancestors had united. Their ancestors had turned their faces to the storm and marched away, abandoning their very gods in the name of freedom. Well, Eshonai would use that freedom. And with her maps, she would show the others, expand their minds, bring them with her next time she visited the forest, and would show them the wonders out here. They would sit by the fire and complain that she was stealing cultivation secrets away, never experiencing the beauty she offered, never knowing the best wonder of them all, the ultimate question, what will I discover next? The river wound through the heart of the forest, and Eshonai mapped its course, using her own methods of counting the distance and rechecking her work by surveying sites from multiple sides. It flowed after high storms, but often continued for days once one had passed. Why? When all the water had drained away or been lapped up, why did this river keep going? Where did it start? Once she had this map done, she intended to head all the way up the river, further than she'd ever gone before, and try to figure out its origin. Rivers excited her. They were markers, guideposts, roadways. You could never get lost if you knew where the river was. She stopped for lunch near one of the bends, and there discovered a type of kremling that was green, like the trees. She'd never seen one that shape before. She'd have to tell Bentley. "Stealing nature's secrets," she said to annoyance. "What is a secret but a surprise to be discovered? Making a map didn't lock down or constrict the wonders of nature. Nature will keep on changing, growing, and providing new wonders. All a map did was provide a path to experience them." Finishing her steam pastures, she put out her fire and continued on the way. By her guess, she could travel through here only a day and a half before reaching the other side. Then, if she rounded the other side of the forest, she'd have a finished picture of how this land looked. It might take months of work after that to map the interior of the forest, if it could be mapped. How would she keep from getting lost without the river to guide her at the edge of the forest to mark a barrier? Such an intriguing problem, such a wonderful problem. There was so much to see, so much to know, and so much to do. And she was going to discover it all. She was going to... What was that? She frowned, stopping in her tracks. The river wasn't particularly strong right now. It would likely slow to a trickle by tomorrow. The trees grew far back from its banks, evidence that the flood during high storm was dangerous. That could be so loud she could follow it from a distance just by listening. Now, though, the water made barely a gurgle. And over it, she easily heard the shouts in the distance. Had others come to find her? She told them not to expect her back soon. She hurried forward, in part overjoyed. If someone had come after her, perhaps they were growing more willing to explore. It wasn't until after she was almost to the sounds that she realized something was very wrong with them. They were flat, no hint of a rhythm, as if they were made not by listeners, but by the dead. A moment later, she rounded the bend and found herself confronted by something more wondrous and more terrible than she'd ever dared to imagine. Humans. And there we go.